Thank you all for coming. I'm Walter Hang. I'm the president of Toxics Targeting. And I wanted to go first because I wanted to introduce Matt Ryan, Mayor of Binghamton, and Dr. Benjamin Perkus. These people have worked so hard. They have been such an incredible asset to their communities that I think that they deserve special praise. I've now worked with Matt for a few years. He just has incredible intelligence. He has personal integrity on a level that is just incredibly rare. But most of all, he has an impressive dedication to public service that I have rarely experienced in the 35 years that I've been doing this. He's really a tribute to his city, and I want everyone in Binghamton and in the Southern Tier to know that Matt Ryan is on the job, and he is not doing this kind of work for his own self. He's doing it for his city, for his constituents, and they should just be incredibly grateful that they have a mayor who works so incredibly hard and so well and has achieved so much progress. I also want to thank Dr. Benjamin Perkus of New York Residents Against Drilling. Ben has also just worked with incredible fortitude, day and night and day, week in, week out. He's really a testament to how citizens can essentially shape public policy decisions, and he has really played an incredible role. Without him, very likely public land leasing of mineral rights in Broome County would have happened a long time ago. We wouldn't have nearly the opposition that we have in New York to allowing an inadequate and incomplete supplemental generic environmental impact statement to be adopted. So I think that the public really should be thanking these people. They really are owed an enormous debt of gratitude. Okay, against that background, I want to talk about the latest effort that's been made to try to require public participation for the New York State Department of Health review of the impact of high-volume hydraulic fracturing in New York. This is very complicated, so I want to go through it step by step. So as New Yorkers know, there has never been a single horizontal hydraulically fracked shale gas well in New York. In 2008, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation said, we are not going to allow that practice until we have adopted comprehensive environmental and public health safeguards pursuant, again, to what's called a supplemental generic environmental impact statement. So that proceeding has been unfolding now for almost 5 years. There's a revised draft SGIS, but it has never been adopted in final form. And the Cuomo administration has said that no final SGIS will be adopted until a Department of Health review of the public health impact of fracking is completed. And that was announced last September. The problem with that entire proceeding is it is being undertaken completely in secret. There has never been a single piece of paper released to the public about the scope of the Department of Health review, about how it's being undertaken, about what the critical issues are. There has been no public disclosure or public notice in any way about that entire proceeding. As a result, it's received withering criticism. So on the 13th of February, or actually on the 12th of February, Health Commissioner Nirav R. Shah said that he was not going to be able to complete that Department of Health review in order to meet a critical deadline for adopting the final SGIS in order to meet the rulemaking deadline, which is tomorrow. And that's why the Cuomo administration has said that the rulemaking proceeding is now dead. However, the moratorium on shale gas fracking remains until a final SGIS is adopted. And again, that will not occur until the health review is complete. So today we are announcing a new coalition letter involving physicians, scientists, more than hundreds of elected officials, concerned citizens all over the state of New York, and we're basically sending a very clear message to the governor. This health review has to have formal written notice of what the health review involves, and it has to involve a minimum of 30 days public review and comment. It has to involve at least one public hearing where interested parties can testify to the health commissioner and the 3 outside experts who have been hired about how the review should be conducted. And most importantly, the final SGICE must not be adopted. That entire proceeding has to be put on hold until these public participation requirements are completed. The last thing is that we want to make sure that critical concerns that have been excluded from the proceeding are addressed. And that's how come I'm very pleased to announce that we are going to be challenging the Department of Environmental Conservation's assertion that, quote, as a result of New York's rigorous regulatory process, the types of problems reported to have occurred in states without such strong environmental laws and rigorous regulations haven't happened here. Well, that's simply not true. And so Toxics Targeting is posting a new internet map server at toxicstargeting.com. It's free. Citizens can just click on this map, and the first thing that they see are 650,000 known and potential toxic sites based on local, state, and federal government data. So the vast majority of these sites are documented by the Department of Environmental Conservation's own data. And you can literally just type in your address, and then you'll zoom in on the map, and it's integrated into Google Earth, Street View, Bird's Eye View. And again, and you can see the Marcellus Shale outline. And so what we then did, and the reason this is very interesting, we integrated the toxic site layers with Marcellus Shale coverage. So for example, these little blue squiggly lines are roads where gas drilling wastewater is authorized to be spread for, believe it or not, de-icing in the wintertime, dust control, and what's called roadbed stabilization. You can see the 5,000 unplugged and abandoned wells that DEC has failed for decades to remediate. And you can see also aquifers, wetlands, and the like. So the assertion by DEC that there have never been any problems is just ludicrous, because Toxics Targeting has documented hundreds of incidents of fires, explosions, people who literally had to run for their lives, people who literally had oil and gas intrude into their homes. And that's how come this coalition letter includes a huge appendix of those documented incidents, and we want all of that information to be reviewed by the Department of Health. And this is an example of how you can see the toxic sites right here in Binghamton. And the whole theory that we think should be driving this proceeding is first, do no harm. So that's how come we have been working so hard to make sure that the Department of Environmental Conservation doesn't make existing problems worse by failing to adopt comprehensive safeguards. And as of this morning, there were 1,500 signatories to this letter in basically one day. Mayor Ryan.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank you for coming out this afternoon. And basically, you know, yesterday, a very important person in a history of our public health in our country died, C. Everett Koop. And he was a person that was not afraid to speak truth to power. And all we're asking is Dr. Shaw and the governor is to make sure that they honor C. Everett Koop's life by taking on the challenges that they know they should take on. You know, there's a history here of this, that it's clear that the health impacts of this industry were almost an afterthought during the process, during the SGICE process. And so all we're asking is that that we immediately put a hold on Department of Health, the Department of Health public review of high volume hydrofracking pending fulfillment of the formal public participation requirements that, which Walter talked about, and also to resolve the fundamental shortcomings of the S-Geist that exist as were outlined today, and the claims that we don't have to do a full in-depth study of this industry because of the past generic environmental impact statement and the fact that New York State had a great record, and that's why we didn't have to recreate the wheel. Well, it's clear we have to recreate the wheel, especially for an industry that's much farther more intrusive than vertical drilling. Involves much more wastewater, much more waste byproducts. So we need a full review of this process. And we should withhold the completion of the DOH review pending review of the final results of the 3 investigations that the Health Commissioner, Dr. Shah, called for, and the first comprehensive studies of the high-volume hydrofracking health impacts at either state or federal level. And also we should require all these critical concerns to be addressed openly and transparently before the DOH completes the public health review and the DEC adopts the final S-Geist. So basically it's going back to the drawing board. Honor C. Edward Koop's great service to this country by saying, you know what, we know that there was intervening governors. We know there's intervening health professionals like Dr. Shaw who came in the middle of the game. This was a hodgepodge they tried to put together. They made good efforts. I wouldn't know. I'm not sure I should use the word good, but they made efforts. But it's become clear by the fact that and their lack of transparency is so overwhelming that it's clear if the public's ever going to have any kind of thought that there's integrity in this process, that it has to pretty much go back to the drawing board and start over.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Benjamin Perkus. I'm a member of the Board of New York Residents Against Drilling. I'm also a member of the Concerned Citizens of the Town of Shenango. I live in the Town of Shenango in Broome County and have been actively involved in statewide efforts to make sure that my community and my home state did not suffer irreparable harm due to Marcellus shale gas fracking. I and many of my colleagues are signatories to the coalition letter being announced today. I would like respectfully to send an unmistakably clear and direct message to Governor Cuomo. Immediately put your Department of Health shale gas fracking impact review on hold until you have fulfilled the public participation requirements that thousands of citizens, elected officials, environmental groups, business leaders, and healthcare professionals have requested. It is inconceivable that the governor has refused to require public notice, public comment, and at least one public hearing for a health impact review that could determine whether or not shale gas fracking is permitted in New York. I call upon the governor to fulfill this request without any further delay. Otherwise, the residents of the Southern Tier can have no confidence whatsoever about the integrity of his administration's decision-making process on the most important environmental issue in recent decades. Regarding the Department of Health review, the governor himself was reported to have concluded that hydraulic fracturing is, quote, too important to make a mistake. We in the Southern Tier could not agree more, but until the Department of Health review is made open and transparent, concerned citizens will push harder and harder for formal public participation as an essential element of democratic decision-making. Thank you.